got to focus on the abundance that's all around them, because your frequency, your energy is what you frequently see.
Dan Martell.
Dan is the author of the Wall Street Journal best-selling book,
Buy Back Your Time has taken the world by storm.
Dan has founded, scaled, and successfully exited 3 technology companies. I'm Dan Martell.
I don't think we create success, we attract success.
Why is it people that seem to work extremely hard don't make that much money?
Because they're not working on the right things. They're working hard on the work. They're not working hard on themselves. When I think wealth, I think time and just the freedom. And when we think about the value of the time, it's not how much you get paid for your hour. It's what do you think you're worth? So I learned a long time ago is nobody's going to get paid a penny more than they think they're worth. What's negative beliefs that keeps people broke? The rich people are evil. I think a lot of people that think, well, if I was rich, I would just hang out on the beach and do nothing, drink Mai Tais. The reason why you'll never be rich is because...
How does someone identify what their current money story is from their past? And then how do you rewrite your money story to create more abundance versus scarcity?
So good. It was a great question. I've never told anybody this.
Welcome back, everyone, to the School of Greatness. Very excited about our guest. We have the inspiring Dan Martell in the house. My man.
Dude.
Good to see you, brother.
Here, man.
It's
an honor.
We have known each other for 15 years. We're here in my home studio in Los Angeles in the basement. I'm still trying to figure out what this is going to be called. The basement of greatness or something?
Downstairs studio.
The downstairs studio, you know, just trying to upgrade our life in the downstairs studio.
No, let's see. I think greatness something sounds better.
Greatness basement, greatness
something.
Something.
We're not there yet.
We'll figure it out. It'll come to us.
Yeah.
But I've seen you evolve over the last 15 years as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a father, as a husband, and transform in so many different ways. And a lot of people know you for the SaaS stuff that you do.
Yeah.
But your newest book, which is all about buying back your time, has really helped people rethink what it means to be a human being in life and how, not just towards entrepreneurship or as a freelancer or in business, but also anyone in a career, how they can reimagine their life to optimize their life with time.
Yeah.
And the first thing I want to dive into, because you coach and work with a lot of 9-figure entrepreneurs, and my community, I think people that are coming to this are really going to want to understand about the 3 principles of building wealth first before we get into time. So I'm curious, with all the people you coach and work with, what are the 3 keys that they all have in order to build wealth sustainably and exponentially? What would you say those 3 things are?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I'd say is most entrepreneurs, unfortunately, because they've never been taught different, end up building companies they grow to hate. Think about that. It's not the economy that takes a business down or an entrepreneur. It's usually the fact that they wake up one day and they look around and they hit what I call the pain line, which is essentially they have opportunity to grow, but the more they grow, the more pain they're going to feel. So, what
is the thing they have the most pain around? Is it their team? Is it their customers, the clients? Is it the industry they're in?
It's the calendar.
It's their schedule.
Yeah. And it's maybe the way they hired where they don't have the right people, or the thing they're selling is too complicated. And the more they do, the more their calendar explodes. So imagine you get an email where you could double your capacity, double your revenue, and you can't take that business on because that would mean more pain in your life. And you're already trying to get more time for the weekends for your kids or whatever it is. I mean, it's tough.
And you're exhausted.
You're burnt out, and it's not the dream that you were sold. You sold yourself a vision of a future where the bigger this gets, the more time you're going to have and the more freedom. And unfortunately, if you're not taught to do it properly, that's what ends up happening. And that's what happened to me. The 3 things that I would say that people who've created wealth, and when I think wealth, I think of like time and just like the freedom, is first off is they understand the value of their time. So, and when we think about the value of the time, it's not how much you get paid for your hour. It's what do you think you're worth? So what I learned a long time ago is nobody's going to get paid a penny more than they think they're worth. So if you
wait, what's the difference between how much you get paid per hour versus how much you're worth?
I think there's one that materializes in the minute. How much did somebody just pay me for what I just offered? And there's what do you think you're worth? What's your value?
Well, some people might say, well, I'm worth $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
But they're not getting paid that.
Nope.
And you could, is that delusional to think, oh, I'm worth this, but if the market's not willing to pay it, are you worth it?
Dude, it's such a good question. Here's why it's a great question is because there has to be a belief you're worth more than what you're currently getting paid. So you make better trades. See, if you think you're worth 1,000, but you're only getting paid 100, then you're going to start thinking about your time differently, where you'll say no to things that don't even look remotely close to a 200, maybe a $300 an hour opportunity. Or you might decide to spend some money. See, most people spend time to save money. I encourage them to spend money to save time.
Yes. This is kind of how I grew up. This is what people do.
Same.
It's like, we're cutting coupons, we're going to discount, we're waiting in line for an hour to like save money, whatever it might be. It's like you wait or you spend time to try to save money. But why is that the wrong way to look at it?
Because if we're talking about creating wealth, the only ways we can create wealth is by making that hour worth more. And this is what's interesting so the first part is worthiness, but the second part is increasing your value. So if you think you're worth 1,000, but you're only charging 100 or people aren't willing to pay you more than that, then you can say, well, how can I become more valuable? For me, the 3 areas I always look at is the character traits that I have, right? Like you're not valuable if you're not somebody that can deliver on the commitments you've made.
Right. And so then are you worthy if you're not valuable?
Exactly. So I think that you have to start with the belief you're worthy, but then you got to back it up by action.
And by creating value
Creating that value.
What? Developing skills.
So it's character traits first off, right? Like just being somebody that shows up, that honors their word, right? Be impeccable with your language. Second would be skills. Like what skill do you currently have that's creating value? And is there a way to upgrade that skill, right? Marketing, sales, etc. And then the third part I think is belief systems, right? So
what are the belief systems that keep people bankrupt or broke?
I always look at 2 things. Let's say the goal is becoming rich. There's 2 parts of this. There's this limiting beliefs you have about yourself about being rich. And then there's the negative beliefs you have about the achievement. So both of those are in the mind. So think about like limiting beliefs is like, well, I can't do this. I've never done this before. And I know the person has those beliefs if I hear the language. And you know what I'm talking about. It's language like could, should, it'd be nice.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That language has the expectation of failure built into it. So that's the limitation beliefs. And then on the other side of the coin of the outcome is the negative belief. So what's negative beliefs that keeps people broke? The rich people are evil. There's no chance you're going to wake up to try to be rich if you believe rich people are evil, or rich people don't pay taxes, or rich people took advantage of somebody, or rich people are unhappy.
Because if you believe rich people are evil, you don't want to become that belief of evil.
If I held a knife to your throat and said, step forward, you'd be like, well, I don't want to step forward because I'll hurt myself. It's like, yeah, so you'll never push for the goal if you think the outcome is negative. So until we work through those beliefs, that's what I call self-sabotage. The biggest work I do with entrepreneurs is understanding what are the unconscious beliefs they have that are literally self-sabotaging their progress to winning.
What are the beliefs that most people have around money that are holding them back then? Is it that money's bad, or people with money are takers, or what is it?
Yeah, I think it's anything negative. So, I mean, I know I had money beliefs around, I had this crazy belief that everybody had to go bankrupt.
That everyone had to?
If you want to be successful.
Really?
It was this weird belief that I read Donald Trump's book and I read a bunch of other people's books. And when you look at the history, they all talk about like, if you're really trying, you're taking risks, and at some point you'll probably go bankrupt. So get used to it. So like, well, if I have that belief, how hard am I going to push to try to be successful if I've got a young family and I'm trying not to create pain in their life?
Yes.
So that one kept me playing small for a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. The other belief is, what will other people in my family say?
If I have money?
Oh my gosh.
Do you ever feel guilty about the money you have?
I felt so guilty, Louis. You've known me for a long time. I didn't tell anybody I had money. I was quiet about it. I didn't allow myself to buy anything nice until I was 30. I made my first million at 27, multimillionaire at 28. And it wasn't until I was 36 I allowed myself to buy a McLaren.
Dude, it's so funny you say
Isn't that crazy?
What's so funny you say this because I still don't really buy myself anything. I mean, I bought a nice home.
You bought a beautiful home.
I'm buying I'm not buying things to like show off that I have money though.
Yeah.
Like I don't showcase my home. I'm not like taking photos of it and posting it online and like, look at me. My friend got me a Rolex for my 40th birthday last year. I think I've worn it like 7 times. Because part of me is still kind of like, should I be wearing this?
Talk to me about that.
Part of it is not my style.
Yeah.
I don't like
that's fair.
Part of it's like I just wear the same black thing, just like
I'm
you're wearing a black
I don't even wear a
t-shirt.
watch. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's part of it. The other part of it is I don't want to reject money coming my way by not wearing it, but it's also like, how are people going to, are they going to judge me? Are they going to want more from me? Are they going to be thinking I should be doing more? It's just like, do I want to attract some type of judgment that is unnecessary? I don't know. It's kind of a lot of that.
Well, and that is it. So you said a few things that I just want to kind of pull up to the surface. Is one of them is I'm worried if they expect me to do more. A lot of people don't want to call their shot or live a bigger life, because then that becomes the new floor they got to live into. So that's a fascinating one. It's like, well, I don't want to create wealth because then I have to maintain that. And if I lose, then people will visually publicly see me rise and fall.
Yeah.
That holds a lot of people back.
I'm not afraid of the rise and fall because I've been in the bottom.
But it's the
but that's
judgment
holds people
around.
back.
Yes, 100%. And like for me, it was, what would my family say? Like, oh, you're too cool for us now? Why did you get that kind of car? I remember, dude, I got the car.
Especially Canadian. You guys
it
don't.
was the only McLaren in the province I lived in. And I used to have to go to Montreal to get serviced.
Wow.
And I remember the first time I had it for almost 2 weeks. I didn't want anybody to know. It was in the garage. I wasn't even sure how I was going to like be with it. That was really weird. And I remember the first time I wanted to go to the gym and drive it with my wife. We went and worked out every day, you know, Renee, and she wouldn't come with me.
Why?
She took her car.
Why?
She didn't want to have to deal with what people were going to say.
Interesting.
So it's fascinating that like when people just kind of try on these ideas, like what would it mean to say, even a lot of my clients, I say, can you say I am ultra rich?
They can't say it.
Nope.
Why not?
I mean, everybody's got a personal story, but what does that mean? Why does saying the word ultra rich scare you, frustrate you, like the judgment? What is it? What does it mean to you? It's just words.
What do most ultra rich people say around why they can't own that they're uber wealthy by speaking about it?
I think there's a part of it that is, if I acknowledge it, then I'm different than other people, and they don't want anybody to think that they think they're better.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I'm that way, man. I don't want anybody to think that because I drive a certain car or fly around in my jet that I think I'm better than you. And you're the same way. Like we don't, right? The reason I don't wear watches because I don't like it to get in the way. I appreciate beautiful things in design.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm definitely, when I first got the McLaren, I was worried that people would treat me different. And guess what? They did.
They do. They look at you differently.
Dude,
but is it
I
a
remember
good thing?
It was awesome. I mean, I showed up, I went and did a talk at a rehab center. I'll tell you why. So I pull up to go, I do a lot of work with troubled youth, and every kid immediately, like they want to know what I have to say. Whereas before I'd show up in whatever car and then they'd be like, who is this guy? Isn't that fascinating? So, you know, perception is reality. But yeah, people do treat you different. And sometimes if you are comfortable with it, you can use that to fast track conversations. And if you're not okay with it, then it can be a source of a lot of pain. And I think that's the mindset.
Who are the wealthiest people that you know that you respect based on how they live their life? And what are the things that they do that you respect the most about them?
Yeah, I'm going to say Gary Vee for sure.
I just interviewed him yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, Gary's...
What are the characteristics about the wealthy like Gary that you respect?
That he uses his money to create and to help other people. And I would aspire to always be that. And that's what it is. And I think that if you truly, it's like when people say, well, I don't need to be rich. And I'm like, cool, why don't you become rich? And then if you want to do good with it, then you can. Like, why wouldn't you accumulate the resources? If you think somebody else, the government, this other entrepreneur, this CEO isn't going to do right by having that money, go get it. And once you got it, decide what you want to do with it.
Right.
That's the way I think about it. So when I watch Gary, you know, create his empire and then reinvest it into content and helping other people and running these big events and building companies to inspire entrepreneurship and help, and really like help other people around him become wealthy. I mean, we've seen Gary over the years make concessions for his career for other people.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, even the fact that he helped build his dad's wine shop. Like most people don't know this. He built it to 60 million. He owned none of it.
Yeah.
And was paying himself maybe 100K a year. Dude, I don't pay my CEOs 100K a year if they're generating 60 million a year.
Right.
Dude, that's not how the math works.
Sure.
So, he inspires me just the way he shows up. I think, you know, Alex and Layla Hermosi, friends of ours, like they do the same thing. They're very much like how do I use this to create more? How do I buy back my time? Like, cause I really think it's about an experience and a leverage thing. Like wealth should be an opportunity to live a more fully developed life, right? Like I think the word empire, subtitle of my book, I believe an empire is a life of unlimited creation you never have to retire from. And I think everybody should want to aspire to do that.
Interesting.
Right? Just be a creator. That's why I talk a lot about artists and creators in the book. The book's really meant for people that are starting off, because I don't want them to get the wrong headspace for what it means to be successful. And I try to teach them how to value their time, the math behind it, the value of it, the worthiness. And then allow yourself to, if you have a desire to drive a supercar, don't tame it. If you have a desire to own a jet, don't tame it. There's nothing wrong with that. Live in a beautiful home. I think the number one thing you could ever do for somebody else is inspire them to live a bigger life. And you don't inspire people by playing small.
And to add to that, though, what is the difference between inspiring people and showing off?
It's the intent. Think about it. Money is an amplifier. That's it. It's not good or bad. It's like a fork. A fork can be used to hurt somebody. It can be used to nourish somebody. It's a tool. That's it. So some people buy the Rolex because they're trying to fill a hole that says, I'm not enough. Maybe this will make me feel worthy of that affection. Other people get it because they understand the history, and from a engineering point of view and a story, maybe if their grandfather had one, they want to wear it as a reminder of that. Or, and it could be like, this is the cool part, is that it's not necessarily the thing, it's the story behind the thing. Isn't that fun? Like, that's why I help people kind of rewrite their money stories. Because then if we say, okay, like I had a client, he was worth like, 50 million, and he couldn't bring himself to, he had a car he wanted to get. I think it was like the new Corvette. Okay. The C8, brand new rear engine Corvette. And he couldn't bring himself. Okay. Guy's worth 50 million. Car's like 100 and some thousand. And I said, why is that? And his mindset was always about, well, if I do that, then I'm taking away from something else I could help somebody with. And I said, cool. I totally honor that. I appreciate it. I said, but what if you got the car to help inspire other kids that were just like you? And I could see the light bulb. And he goes, oh. I said, so talk to me about what I saw the math click. And he goes, well, if I got the car, then I could use it for charity rallies, and I could do it. I could go to schools, and I could like go to car shows, and I go, now we're talking. See, if you have a thing, a house, and you don't host people there,
right?
You have a company, but you don't allow the resources to be leveraged by your team to do good. You have money, but you just try to hoard it and keep it in one spot and not use it to create experiences for yourself. That's where I think people get prisoner of money. And here's the thing, and I got this from one of my friends. I really like the way he framed it. He said, it doesn't matter how much money you have, 100,000 or 100 million. He said, if money is the primary decision, you make a decision, you're a prisoner. Said money needs to be a consideration, but it can't be the primary reason
why you do something, why you create something, make something, start a business. It has to be a consideration.
It has to be.
You can't just say, I want to do this, but I may make no money. You have to be thinking about the money as well. How much do you think about the money versus the impact when you're making a decision?
Exactly.
How much should you
I
weigh
think impact should be at least 50%. I think the money should almost be, let's not be wasteful. But I think we should listen to our heart and say, that's what I feel called to do. If you feel called to, charter a boat and invite all your friends on it to create a magical experience, I think that is a beautiful thing. And economically, it might make no sense. Calling my dad and sharing with him some of my travel stuff I'm doing, he for sure would go, wasteful, makes no sense. Why would you do that? But again, different mindset, right? He had a belief that money didn't grow on trees and there was a limited supply. I have a belief that to the level I'm creative and resourceful, it's unlimited.
Let's go. I like that.
But that's true because you've experienced it.
Yes.
Right? To the degree that I can create opportunities for people or feel a certain way, then all of a sudden I attract it into my life. Then I need to show up, and always, that's why the desire to help other people should be at least 50% of every decision, because it's actually a better way to live.
You mentioned money story. How does someone identify what their current money story is from their past And then how do you rewrite your money story to create more abundance versus scarcity?
So good. That's a great question. So what I do with people is I ask them to sit down and say, as it pertains to money, being rich, and let's call it like being rich, what are all the negative beliefs that you have around that language? And really sit with that for 15 minutes. Don't move on it. Well, and I've had people say the craziest things, and crazy to me, but maybe obvious to a lot of people listening. The first one, I remember one time they said that rich people don't pay taxes. That's fascinating. And
I paid a lot of taxes.
I'm
man.
like, I know how much I write. And I want to pay taxes.
Yeah.
The more taxes I pay, it means that I've obviously created more wealth. Like I have no problem paying tax. I don't want to pay 1 penny more than I have to, but I have zero problem. And it's funny how that belief, well, what is that? Why does that matter to you? Well, I want to give a penny more to the government than I have to. Interesting. So you have an anger issue against your government that's stopping you from being wealthy because you don't want to pay more.
So you don't want to make more because you don't want to give more.
Dude, it's so fascinating, right? When people literally say like, well, I don't want more because I might make, if I'm wealthy or rich, my sister might be upset with me. Talk to me about that. Well, last time I got a raise and I told her, all of a sudden she didn't talk to me for 3 weeks because she thought I was better than her. That's interesting. Let's talk about that. So I always go to 3 questions when this stuff comes up. Number 1, is it true?
So first off, write off all the beliefs. That
write all the beliefs
on your money story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then for each one of them, the first question, is it true?
What if they believe it's true?
Well, is it really true is the follow-up. Is it true, comma, is it really true? Is there a scenario where that's not true? And for most people, if I say, is it really true? They're like, well, no, it's not really true. It's like, cool, let's start there. Second question is, what would need to be true for that not to be true? Because that's another great question. It's like, well, I don't want to pay taxes. Like, perfect. So what if you had a tax expert that specialized in making sure that you didn't pay a penny more to the government than you had to? Would that solve the problem? Cool. Because again, it's not about overcoming that they don't believe it anymore. It's resolving the belief. So if I then found a firm that I knew would help me not pay the government 1 penny more, then I could push harder, right? Because again, people don't want to grow if they have a negative belief of achievement. So once we resolve that, then we move it forward. Now, the third question is, how old is that belief?
How long have you been thinking about it? Or how old are you when you came up with it?
When did that start?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I was 7, I was 10, I was 9.
I saw my dad, upset and he made a comment. And that stuck with me. Or my dad used to say that it's fascinating. He used to always say to me that it's not what you make, it's what you spend. Okay, which is good advice. On the surface, it's not what you make, it's what you spend. So you could make $1 million a year, but if you spend $1 million in one, then you're no worse off than somebody that didn't make any money. But what I took that and internalized it for my 20s. In my 20s, for when I started in business, was every dollar was an expense, I was taking it away from me. So think about the concept of buying back your time. My belief, if I spent $1, then I was taking away profit. So I tried to do as much as I could
to save.
Dude, I was making hundreds of thousands a year. And instead of investing in the business, I was constrained